Hey everyone, it's Simon Spiraled. We're just here in match 1 of Nangjiao and Bloom on custom night drafts here over on MSEM. We're not likely to film the entire night, but we did want to get at least one match in, considering the fact that I drafted, but would not have the time to do the full draft. So we're going to get to watch two other players. We've got Nyx and Para here on two different decks. We've got Nyx over, I believe, on Black-Red Demons, and over here, Para seems to be on green-blue Golden Age ramp. So we're going to see how these players start us off. For those of you who have played in Cans of Tarkir, you might recognize these lands. They've been reprinted. Of course, because we're using the MSEM interface, some of the lands and cards might be printings from other sets. But don't worry, I believe we're seeing the Kahembo version of these lands, but they are indeed in the deck. So some slow starts for both players playing these little gain lands. We have Tree of Tragedies being played on turn 2 here by Nyx, 0-3 with 3 mana, sack a creature, draw a card, which is pretty much what you want in a black-red sacrifice-based deck. It's a pretty cheap outlet. You can always sacrifice itself to get a card if you really need to, and you can sack itself, so you don't have to sack other things. Over on Para's side, we've got a Reflecting Pool Drifter, a card that I passed up on the draft to pick something else. It's a 1/3 flyer for 2, which is pretty good. And then 2 in blue, it switches target creature's power and toughness. So with spare mana, this thing can actually clock in for 3. So right here, exactly what Para's doing, saying, I'm willing to swing in, anything going on, and if not, sometimes you just have the 3 mana, and you can switch things. The interesting thing is you can switch 0/3s, which then become 3/0s, and as we all know, that kills them. But in response, we're seeing a Scorching Dragonfire coming out, removing that lovely little Reflecting Pool Drifter. So both boards cleared as we move on to turn 3 here for Nyx. Potentially turn 4. I may have missed a turn where... let me see real quick. Yeah, so Nyx didn't play a land on a previous turn. So Nyx is not finding that third land. We're on turn 4s here. Para's got a lot of cards in hand left to play, playing out an Erratic Visionary. 1/3 for 2 that lets you then pay 2, tap, and loot. The interesting thing about a lot of these cards with activated abilities is they're one of the best ways of, and of course, one of the necessary ways of turning on Golden Age, one of the formats mechanics that you can see here over here on Exquisite Slash, where you need to have cast an instant or sorcery, activated a non-mana ability, and attack this turn. So we've got Altar of Twisted Piety here, which I talked about in the draft, coming in, bringing back that Tree of Tragedies into play. And then on a later turn, Nyx will be able to pay either 2 in a black or 2 in a red for Shadows Bind Us or Hellfire Fills Us on this gallery, unlocking one of the 2 abilities. You might notice these really cool Secret Lair periodic lands that we've got going on here, created by Nyx themselves. So if ever these are the kind of lands that you're interested in, they are on the format and are available for use by all players. We are over here on the main phase for Para. We've activated Erratic Visionary, trying to find things that are not lands, so we're going to throw that basic island into the yard, play out the forest, and play out another card here. I'm guessing with the 3 mana, we are going to see the Hero's Journey being played. We're going to search for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. It will be untapped. And we'll get an Idle token, which is one of the reasons that land entering untapped is quite important. Idols used to cost 2 to sacrifice to put a counter. They've been decreased with a recent set rework to only cost 1. So, unfortunately, you have to do it as a sorcery, but it does mean that if you wanted to put that +1/+1 counter on the Visionary, we could do it this turn. I'm going to imagine we're going to keep that counter for something a little scarier, like a Cerulean Sovereign or Ziehuan and Halu here, which are very strong cards. Little fun fact about this little cat-human legend, I believe this was one of the cards that I was given to preview when this set was first being spoiled over on the Magic Set Editor Discord, so I had a really nice time slowly having it appear in a potted plant, as I talked about, growing your win cons, so that was a little fun card. Over on Nyx's, we drew into a UJ Zephyr Melodist, 3 mana 1/1. When it enters, you make a 1/1 bird with flying. 2 and a white, you put a counter on another target creature. It will gain flying until end of turn, but if it already had flying, you'll put a counter on UJ itself. You might notice at the very bottom, we have that Vorthos box here on MSEM. We have pronouns for all our legends and our walkers that have them on the bottom. Removes a lot of confusion, and just a nice little thing that was easy to add, not, obtrusive, doesn't, bother too much, but it's nice to be able to refer to legends with the proper wording. We are tapping a lot of mana here. Just going to scroll down on our text so we can just keep a careful eye. We've got Xiehuan and Haolu being played. 6/6 Trample Vigilance. Spells your opponents cast that target them cost X more to cast, where X is the number of other creatures you control, and then whenever another creature you control dies, you simply draw a card. So a lot of value on this card, and the Trample and Vigilance really aren't to be overlooked. Being able to clock in for your opponent for huge amounts of damage while keeping it up as a blocker is really important. So I didn't have the extra mana for the Idol. That Thornwood Falls was played this turn. Both players still at full life or above full life, but I'm going to assume we're going to start seeing that change rather soon. So let's give a little look over here at Nyx's hand. We've got things like One Last Dance, where you gain control of a target creature until end of turn and untap it. Could be the sort of card where you'll take one of their big legends. Problem is, of course, that spells that target it cost a little more now, and with 3 lands, Nyx doesn't quite have that. Instead, we're playing out Memorial Plaza, which will to make 2/1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens with flying. And again, as a gallery, we could eventually unlock either the Warrior or Rhapsody in black, either putting counters on creatures we control or sacrificing them to draw cards. Love the spirit art on these cards. The art on Nangjiao and Bloom is really phenomenal. I really recommend you checking it out on MSEM Instigator, which is our Scryfall search engine, or on the Discord. The set has a lot of very lovely cards, and the limited format is particularly exciting. So we swung in for 2 flying here, no flying blockers over on Para's side of the board, so those 2 chipped away. But now we're going to move into some big haymakers here. Prince Crab has a little more of a low end, but Cerulean Sovereign being quite good. We're going to pop off an Adventurous Impulse. This is the art from Alcaba, but it is in the set. You look at top 3 cards of your library, you're going to get either a creature or a land and put it into your hand. So we'll see what gets picked out here. I would assume we're looking for creatures. We seem to be perfectly fine on lands, and Prince Crab generating treasure means we're not hurting for mana. This Exquisite Slash is quite nice as well for dealing damage equal to power, so some of these big creatures can punch things a little bit over their weight. Well, in the end, we went for a Shrine of Elder Lords, which I guess is both. It's a land and it's a creature. Whenever you create an idol token, you put a counter on the shrine. It taps for colorless, and you can pay 3 to put a counter just directly on the shrine, and then you can have it become a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance until end of turn, and of course, it is still a land. Tapping a lot of mana here. I'm assuming I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be Prince Crab. Prince Crab is going to make an idol. Prince Crab is going to make a treasure. The idol is going to put a counter on Shrine of Elder Lords. Love the treasure art, by the way, for Nangjiao and Bloom. That dessert looks absolutely delicious. We cracked one of the idols, and we put the counter on both idols on Xiehuan and Haolu. So that's going to be an 8/8 Trample Vigilance. It's going to hurt quite a bit. Moving to the attack phase, attacking with this 8/8 Trample Vigilance. Nyx saying, I'm just going to take the whole thing. I'm not trekking those 1/1s into that. Up in the hand, we've got cards like Traveler's Trials, but, well, there we go. We've conceded the game 1. There was some removal in that hand, but destroy target creature with no counters on it was not going to be able to take out that boss monster, and being stuck on 3 lands is just unfortunate. There's a lot more that Nyx could have done with just a little more mana. Unfortunately, it was a little dry on that side of the field, but I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes out. So again, Nyx is going to be on the play. Not having access to these decks' sideboards, I'm assuming not too many things get changed here in Limited. Starting off again with a tap land, we're seeing a lot more lands in the opening hand. We're seeing that Leave the Den that was wheeling around during the draft in Pack 1. Creates 3/2/1 red and white foxes, which is perfectly fine in a white, black, and red deck. Lots of things that you can do with those. Memorial Plaza still here, as we saw in the last match, and a Tree of Tragedies, but no Swamp to play it on turn 1. Force here for Para. We're seeing a lot of cards that we've seen before. Exquisite Slash we saw, Reflecting Pool Drifter, the Sovereign. One of the new cards, though, Descendant of Shimaru, as a 4-mana 4/4 trample that comes with an idol. So if you've got a draw this on turn 5, it can just straight up be a 5/5. And that +1/+1 counter is actually relevant. So perfectly good card. Reflecting Pool Drifter into Tree of Tragedies. Again, Nick's throwing out a sad face. I would be too. It's such a free way of getting rid of the card. If you get that 3 mana, though, and you make your opponent pay 3 mana to get rid of Tree of Tragedies, but in response you sacrifice it, not a bad thing. But again, Nick's much more interested in just playing down this Memorial Plaza, saying, hey, you want to spend your turn 3 getting rid of my 1-drop? Go right ahead. I'm going to do stuff with Memorial Plaza instead and, you know, put out some flyers. These 1/1s line up well into Reflecting Pool Drifter, but yeah, we're going to see the 3 mana Flip the Tree. Words that you don't hear very often in Magic the Gathering. And we're going to pass it back, not going to attack here because of the 1/1s. I guess maybe you want to hold up that blocker. You don't want these things getting in for free. Next, moving over to Upkeep. Drawing another Scowled Barons. We see cards like Sanguine Muralist here. Muralist as a 3/1 flash that when it enters, target creature's toughness becomes 1 until end of turn. Quite interesting card, especially with these little 1/1s flying around. And a Visit from Auntie, a card that I actually let wheel quite a bit. I didn't end up picking any of them. My chance of activating Golden Age was quite low, and there were just other cards that I was interested in. It's a draw 2. If you're in the Renaissance from the Golden Age, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, so it's a good payoff for it, but otherwise you lose 2 life. And in my deck, I think it would have been a worse divination most of the time, but we're activating 2 and a white, the Warrior here on Memorial Plaza. At the beginning of combat, we're going to put counters on creatures we control, and if this colorless spirit manages to just keep clocking up, Reflecting Pool Drifter is going to have to start paying quite a bit of mana to deal with it, and then eventually it'll just become too big. We're running out 4. I'm assuming this is going to be the Descendant of Shimaru to get a 4/4 trample and the Idol, which is going to make a little bit of a difference. And then we're going to pass it back, keeping up our flying blockers once again. Drawing the Slapdash Matrimony. It's a 1 and a red sorcery. We can discard a card and sacrifice a non-land permanent. And if we do, we get to draw 3 cards, which can be a lot. The price, of course, is 3 cards for 3 cards, but sometimes in the late game, you just have a lot of little treasure tokens or idol tokens lying around, and you can just cash out those non-cards and refuel. Over here in Para's hand, we haven't had a chance to look at Hero's Journey from the previous game, and we see an Ingwe's Admonition as a big counterspell that also creates an idol token, which is, again, something you kind of want here in these green, blue, golden age. These idols very good at turning on the Renaissance part. Tapping 5, going to play Leave the Den, because Para here was tapped out. There wasn't a risk of Reflecting Pool Drifter doing a flip, so we are swinging in with this now 3/3 spirit off of Memorial Plaza's The Warrior. Slowly growing, and these 2/1 foxes here, looking adorable, are going to start protecting and eventually throwing their weight in, depending on how these next few turns play out. So there are quite a bit of options. Hero's Journey for the ramp. We've got idols to grow bigger. Exquisite Slash is removal. Cerulean Sovereign can be removal. And Ingwe's is a counterspell. So Para is really not out of options here. So it's definitely still anyone's games. Life total is still pretty high for both players. I believe we're going to see, yep, an idol getting cracked. I would imagine that the flyer... Nope, okay. In this case, we're just going to buff up this 4/4 into a 5/5. Trades nicely here if ever it swings in. That's all the foxes, or 2 foxes and a spirit will have to throw its weight in. Though I could see putting some of these on the Pool Drifter if ever you needed to start curving that attack. So throwing out the 5/5, knows that there's a lot left in the hand with Cerulean Sovereign as a bigger target. no blocks, I believe. Or this might be before. We're still at declare blockers, so we're going to go with Exquisite Slash. The creature is going to deal damage equal to its power to a creature we don't control. That will deal with that first 3/3 flyer. And because the creature simply deals the damage, that 5/5 is still nice and big. I believe that was an activated ability, an instant or a sorcery, and an attack. So we've we've popped out the Golden Age, which here is a token. This is actually a card from another set. I do believe there is a Renaissance token. I would have to just check real quick. Let's check. Do we have? Apparently we do not have one. That would be something to maybe add to the format. I'll remember that real quick. Whoops, I am clicking all over the place. Here we go. So Golden Age is active, which again, very much, there we go, Renaissance. Might be good to add one into the format. That means that a lot of cards start getting better. I don't think we have any here on the board. It has no rules meaning, much like the City's Blessing and Ascend in Canon Magic, but it can do a lot. So that 5/5, I believe, was it blocked? Let's check real quick. No, sets counter life. Oh, okay, took the hit. Yeah, there we go. I was looking for it. Let's see what else we got here. We've got some swings coming in. One of those foxes didn't make it. Played out a Warped Landscape. We're going to play Slapdash Matrimony. So we're going to discard a card, which is that Visit. We're going to sacrifice that 1/1. And we're going to get 3 more cards here. Could be a lot of interesting things. Drew into a Restless Oppressor whenever you sacrifice a permanent. Put a counter on it. Can grow pretty big. We're going to play out the Sanguine Muralist and simply put Reflecting Pool Drifter at toughness 1 to kill it, since it blocked one of the 2/1s. So damage still on the creature meant that that 1/3 was no longer able to survive. Back over on Para's turn, much smaller board than we had, drawing, however, into a Harmonic Recruit. And now that we've got Golden Age, activating 3 and a green won't just give +2/+2, it will give +4/+4, and there's no limit to how often you can do that. So once you get to 8, this card can hit like a truck. You don't have to activate it at sorcery speed either. There's a lot you can do. We're up to 7 mana. That does not mean, however, that we can play both in a turn. Cerulean Sovereign, probably not necessarily wanting to bounce a Sanguine Muralist, but can definitely get rid of the 3/2 Fox, just simply by virtue of bouncing it as a creature, which might be what we're going to see here. Or maybe there's an instant or sorcery in the bin in either Exquisite Slash that might be interesting to get. Yeah, all right. So going with the Slash. Being future removal for any scary thing that could happen is important. Cracking that other idol and putting the counter over on Cerulean Sovereign as a 4/5 is very strong. No attacks. All right. When you're at 11 life and your opponent can grow things by counters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a lot to do for leaving only a single blocker. There's plenty of removal in the set. Drawing back into that Altar of Twisted Piety. We could be bringing back this Tree of Tragedies. But the Oppressor slowly growing could be something we might want to field earlier as well. We are at 6 lands here, so definitely not enough to play out both in a single turn. Altar's ability to slowly turn lots of your excess little token creatures into a demon is interesting, especially because you can put a flying counter or a lifelink counter on it, could be good. And then, of course, the sacrificing part could be fun as well. But we're at Warrior. We're bringing up the second Fox into a 3/2. This is interesting. We're at Attack. We're going to swing in with this 3/1. Descendant's going to block, willing to take that 3 damage. I assume, unless I'm missing something, 6, I don't know if we have, I'm guessing the reason you do that is for the Sanguine Muralist trick with the Altar, yeah, but you're not necessarily going to activate both of You can maybe turn on one of its abilities, but you're not going to be able to activate it right away. But Sanguine Merlis, one of my favorite commons. It does so much. The fact that whenever you bring it back, or there's a lot of tricks that having someone's toughness become 1 can be quite important. Now the question is, we're at 3 lands. Did we play a land this turn? I don't believe so. So there we go. Okay. Plays out the mountain. Plays out the Restless Oppressor as a 3/3. Board's starting to fill up here on Nyx's side. Got a Crooning Eulogist being drawn. I quite like this card. It's a repeated activated ability. Exiles your creatures, sure, but the fact that you then get a lot of idols can do a lot. And we were already at, two creatures here to get value. Yeah, so Harmonic Recruit, not surprising. This thing, as I said, can hit easily for upwards, 10 damage at a time. And the fact that you can do it instant speed means sometimes you don't have to go all the way there. So 2 mana, I'm assuming this other 2 mana is going to be the no, okay, we're doing slash right away. All right, so not doing more. We're saying, okay, let's just deal with this problem right now. Punch it out of the way. Still got 3 mana open. That could be holding up an Ingwe's Admonition for maybe whatever scary thing comes over on the field next turn. Of course, doesn't know that all that's in the hand is a Bloodfell Caves. And UJ costing only 3 means that there's enough mana to pay for the Admonition. And 3 mana open means that's not Harmonic Recruit activated ability, but the fact that you've got the 4/5 here should still do some work. Warrior is going to keep ticking up here, and this altar, once it goes online, can do a lot of work. The fact that those activated abilities for sacrificing can be done at instant speed does a lot. I'm assuming we're going to see... Yeah, all right. So we went with Hellfire. We're more excited to have the 2 damage mode, especially given Harmonic Recruit right now is a 2/2 and cannot be protected with the +4/+4. So we might see... I'm going to assume you're happy throwing in Sanguine Merlis for the Harmonic Recruit, but let's see Bloodfell Caves being played out, gaining a little bit of life. Now the question is, this UJ can be countered by the 3 mana counterspell now that we've activated Hellfire. Nyx doesn't know that it's in Para's hand, of course, so... Alright, Hellfire can be activated at instant speed, so there's a lot of flexibility here. So the 4/5 is going to block the 4/3. Going to let the Harmonic Recruit trade. Going to let that trade in, and now with damage marked on Cerulean Sovereign, if ever you wanted to, you could throw out the Hellfire. Now, the thing is, you're probably thinking, oh, it's going to throw out the bird, but I'm assuming we're going to see a hold on. That play was very, very fast. Yeah, there we go. So usually in especially when you play on Cockatrice, things can go quite fast. So it's important to put the card here into the cast zone first. In limited, it is what it is. So Nick says, yeah, all right, no worries. You got me there, but I'll throw the Muralist here at this Cerulean Sovereign, and I'll finish that off instead. So boards have been cleared. A lot went down there. The nice thing, though, is that Warrior and Hellfire are still going to be active. So whatever you draw next, Nyx, is going to keep growing. Very good draw, though, here. Paradrawing a Cerulean Sovereign is quite good. One of my favorite blue uncommons from this set. I believe I reprinted it in one of our Winter Magic sets, so it's nice to see it here. We have a 7. Cannot play both, but I'm assuming it's going to be a Sovereign, bringing back perhaps the removal spell again. And if that's the case, maybe cracking that idol and putting it back up to a 4/5. So there we go. Slash coming back. And let's see if, yeah, there we go. The idol is played out, and we're back to a 4/5 flyer. The versatility on Cerulean Sovereign is what's very important. Bouncing creatures is good. especially as they grow with lots of counters or a lot of the token plays, and then, Instants and Sources, we've seen, just keeps bringing back this removal. We've drawn into an Outcast of the Folded Fan. It's a 2/1 for 2, and you can pay 1 and a white and exile it from your graveyard to get a 1/1 bird, and it activates only as a sorcery. There's lots of these little hidden, I won't say hidden, but there's lots of these small activated abilities that are seeded throughout the set, which work just so well to get Golden Age active, because you would imagine that it's not super easy to trigger the Renaissance, but honestly, the instant and sorcery sometimes is the hardest, but you get so many activated abilities and chances to attack in the set. So the Warrior is going to put a counter here on the Outcast up to a 3/2. Definitely does not contest with the Cerulean Sovereign, and Para's just saying, you know what, let's just keep clearing it out. So I'm very happy to just chuck it at this creature. You can pay your red, your Hellfire. I'll take 2. That's okay. I'll swing. I believe this... maybe the damage was being marked, but I believe if this is the second counter... we'll see. Might have missed a little bit here. Crooning Eulogist and playing out the Verdant Druid that was played. So with Golden Age on, it's 2 and a green. Let me just check real quick with how many... Okay, no, it's still just a 4/5. Did we miss... No, okay. There wasn't another token. You know what? I was misremembering. I'm misremembering the Exquisite Slash's ability as the hero's journey, and it gives +1/+0, which is why I went to a 5/5 for the turn. We're all good. I wasn't paying attention there for a second. So I was saying, Verdant Druid, 2 and a green, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. You can put a creature card from among them on top, but if you're in a Renaissance, you simply put them to your hand. And that's repeatable. So if you've got the mana to spare, as we do usually in this late game, you can just start outvaluing your opponent here, drawing creature after creature. Quite a good card. Of course, putting other stuff that you don't need on the bottom. Still got a 4/5 beater in the sky here. Nyx can only take so many of these hits. Drew into a swamp. Definitely not what we were looking for. We're going to play Trawl the Annals. Golden Age. So we scry 2, then draw 2 cards. But because we're in a Renaissance instead, we scry 2, then draw 3. So big value here off of this Renaissance reminder. Nyx just checking the top card, saying, you got this. Too much value for me. Did my best. And that's going to be a wrap on this match. So I believe that was 2-0 here for Para's deck. We are maybe going to get another video. I'll see depending on the time. And if the players are still going to play on, I would maybe like to do another one. But if not, this has been your taste of MSEM's custom night drafts. We do this every Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern, and normally it runs for about 2-3 hours. We play 1, 2, or even 3 matches depending on the turnout, and it's a good way to showcase the sets in the format. So if ever you find any that you like and you want to come give it a shot, you know where to go. So thank you very much for tuning in. Have a good one.